Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this morning to discuss how the City of Columbus and our law enforcement partners throughout the region are coordinating to address the dangerous and reckless ATV and dirt bike riding in our city streets. Since the beginning of 2021, I've heard from residents from all over the city about how illegal operation of ATVs and dirt bikes are causing havoc in our neighborhoods, driving recklessly down our streets and destroying our public parks. Council has received dozens of emails, and the Division of Police has received over 700 calls for service related to this issue. Today you will hear about how we plan to address this issue legislatively and through enforcement. I'd like to thank Council President Hardin and Chief Bryant for their joining me today. I appreciate their commitment to keeping our neighborhoods safe, and with that, I'd like to introduce Council President Shannon Hardin.
Thank you, Council Member. I appreciate your leadership on this effort. A few weeks ago, Council announced its third legislative package to reimagine public safety. This package included allowing the Civilian Review Board to get started, efforts to rebuild trust, and addressing ATVs and dirt bikes on our streets, and much more. Safety is Council's #1 priority. Unfortunately, over the past year, we've seen more reckless driving and more people killed or seriously injured. While we need to change our infrastructure to save lives over the long term, we also need to make sure the vehicles on the streets are supposed to be there. I've heard stories from residents. They tell me about how they see these drivers losing control of their ATVs and crashing into parking cars. A crash at Broad and James Road landed one driver in the hospital and when the vehicle collided with an SUV. Much of Council's job is to listen, to hear what's going on in our community, and to respond. I go to the grocery store every day, and the things that we hear right now are about safety. It's not folks there are worried about ATVs and dirt bikes, not because they're loud, not because they're annoying, but because they're afraid that the driver near them will veer off and sometimes be a child. They're afraid because they don't know their kids, especially black and brown kids, are seeing something online and trying to recreate it here on our streets. It's not safe, and it has to stop. I want to once again thank those folks who have been in the weeds working to tackle this issue, especially our leader on council and safety issues, Councilmember Brown, Chief Bryant, and the City Attorney's Office. At this point, I'd like to introduce our Chief of Police, Chief Bryant.
Thank you. Good morning. While we work to reduce our homicide and gun violence, and we are very serious about doing that, and we're committing a lot of resources to it, we also have to address other crimes and issues that impact our neighborhoods and families, including the one that brings us here today. The recklessness we are experiencing with ATVs and dirt bikes is not just a Columbus issue, it's not just an Ohio issue. It's occurring across the nation in many cities and many states. This reckless behavior displayed by these individuals is more than a noise issue. It's more than a nuisance. It's a quality of life issue. It is a safety issue that could lead to serious injury and loss of life. The people engaging in this behavior are clearly endangering themselves and the public. If concern for your own life and lives and safety of innocent people around you isn't enough to stop you, you leave us no choice but to take stronger measures to stop you. And that is exactly what we are announcing today. We cannot do it alone. That is why you see the individuals from these surrounding agencies here today. They are experiencing the same problems in their respective communities. Together, we can address this reckless behavior. To talk more about the initiative, please welcome Columbus Police Deputy Chief Jennifer Knight.
Thank you, Chief. At this time, I'd like to have our partners come over and stand up on the stage. And I want to thank everyone for being here today to discuss how we plan to address this safety issue that is actually impacting Columbus neighborhoods, but neighborhoods of surrounding jurisdictions, and the safety of everyone on our streets and freeways. And I want to frame this issue by providing you with an example of what type of behavior we're actually seeing in our neighborhoods, on our streets, in broad daylight, when our families are out playing in parks, when our children are there, when motorists are coming to and from work. And I want you to see how that's impacting our roadways and the safety of everyone. But this is just one of numerous videos that we had, and it displays the arrogant disregard, not just for the law, but for the safety of everyone. And this video shows riders who actually began on West Broad Street, but they traversed the entire city to Livingston, Cleveland Avenue, and Morse Road. And this is the type of behavior that we see the entire time. This video goes on for about 3 minutes, and I want you to take a look at what we're seeing on this video. They actually take over both sides of the roadways at multiple times. They're popping wheelies. They're taking the vehicles onto the sidewalks where there's individuals on the sidewalks. This is, in the middle of the afternoon, and there is about 40 ATVs and dirt bikes in this area. And if you see, they're on both sides of the roadways. They actually shut down traffic at some intersections, which is good because they may not be seen by the other motorists. They go through red lights, they're doing burnouts, they're cutting in front of individuals, and it is amazing to me that we haven't had a loss of life due to this. We've had several injuries, and as you can see, this kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated anymore. So we're putting everybody on notice right now that this is going to stop. So it's clear from these videos that they have the impression that we're going to tolerate this, and I'm here to tell you that's not going to be the case anymore. We've reached out to these other agencies in the area and asked for their assistance, and we will be working with our law enforcement partners, and we've developed a strategy that's actually going to marshal resources from everywhere, and it's going to target this behavior before anyone is killed. With the assistance on this stage, we plan to pass legislation that's going to increase fines, identify the individuals involved, pursue multiple charges, impound the vehicles, and stop this dangerous behavior. And with the help of council, we're actually going to pass legislation to increase the fines of up to $1,000. So we're putting everybody on notice. The enforcement is going to start immediately, and we're going to be able to identify these individuals, and we're going to be able to follow up with enforcement behavior. And we are asking the public that if we need to identify individuals performing these kind of actions in your neighborhood, please let us know who they are. It's your kids that are on the street. You're the motoring public. We want to make sure that we get the public involved in this if we need to identify these individuals. These kind of things are all over YouTube, so we're going to be able to do that, and we're putting everybody on notice. And right now, I want to go ahead and introduce some of our partners, and if Sheriff Baldwin can come up and talk about a little bit of how he's going to help us do this.
Thanks, Chief. Good morning, and thank you to the council members and to the other chiefs. As you could tell, this is a very serious problem. The ATV riders, the dirt bike riders that are disregarding the law are endangering not only the other motorists on the street, but themselves. You know, our traffic fatalities this year have skyrocketed. The last thing I want my investigators to do is have to go to a family's home and tell them about their son, their daughter, or somebody who got killed in a needless traffic accident. Driving like this around is crazy, and it needs to stop. The only way to do that is by partnerships with everybody throughout the county and basically Central Ohio. This is a problem that affects all of us, and by working together is the only way that we're going to do it. Our plans will be laid out. Chief Christmas is going to follow up in a minute talking, but we're going to work together on this, and we're going to bring this to a conclusion. And thank you for being here. Chief.
Well, good morning, and thanks, Sheriff. Council members, I can't thank you enough, because the importance of having support from you folks on this very, very important issue is going to make us even more successful, so thank you very much for that. As the president of the Franklin County Chiefs Association, I want to say that this whole idea or notion of collaboration is not new to us. In fact, if you look around this room, this is a whole group of people who meet fairly regularly, and we've done these operations before. And so I want to just say this whole concept of cross-jurisdictional silos that we've always sort of been in is going away, right? And I think everybody needs to know that's going to go away. And we've always known it here, especially the last couple of years. We've learned the value of working with each other. We need each other often. And so that's what this is about. This is about us working together to sort of solve this problem as a group collaboratively, and we have skills with it. We've been doing it for a while, so again, thanks, council members. I absolutely appreciate that. Chief Bryant, Sheriff, I really want to say too to Deputy Chief Jennifer Knight and Chief Deputy Jim Gilbert, from my position, I've watched both of them, and all of them have been involved, but those two have really worked really hard on this problem for quite some time, so thank both of you for that, all right? So I won't get into the details that have already been said. So what I would like to say, though, is maybe send a message just for a second. I'm a bike rider myself, right? I ride motorcycles. I love it. But you got to do this legally. You got to follow the law. And the things that are happening now are a combination, I think, of what I think's already been mentioned, some social media stuff, things we're seeing that's encouraging people to act certain ways. And we've already had tragedies, so we're trying to prevent these tragedies from occurring again, both in the past or going forward. So what I would say is, if I could send a message to that group of folks that are doing that, please stop before we even get to this point, right? We're not trying to be heavy-handed. We're okay with riding motorcycles and stuff. We're okay with all that. The law's okay with that. We're just not okay with lawlessness, which is what's happening right now throughout our county, and as the chief mentioned, all over the country. And so it's this lawlessness that's going to have to cease. This group that's behind you, you've noticed that whenever you have the elected officials, you have the criminal justice system, and you have this many executives in law enforcement united, it's going to stop. So please stop before we get there. Otherwise, we have some plans in place, and we're going to have to take some serious steps to put an end to it so that you don't hurt yourselves or others around you. So that's really the message from the Franklin County Chiefs Association. Is in collaboration together, we are going to make our streets safer in Franklin County. Thank you. Council member?
Well, thank you very, very much. And again, thank you, Chief Bryant, Sheriff Baldwin, and of course OSP and our partners across Franklin County for the vigilance in keeping our community safe through the dedication in addressing this important and very confident issue. As part of our holistic strategy, Council will be considering Ordinance 2060-2021 as an emergency on Monday. This ordinance is modeled after ordinances in Philadelphia, New York, New Haven, Connecticut, and other cities who have seen drastic increases in the activity this summer. This legislation will create an offense for reckless operation of an ATV, all-purpose vehicle, or dirt bike, off-highway motorcycle. I'm going to speak to Christopher about riding his bike. As long as you're wearing a helmet, it's okay. These penalties, along with the efforts of law enforcement to impound these vehicles, will go a long way in curbing the willingness of riders to take this reckless action. I will welcome any resident who would like to offer comment on the proposed legislation to please contact my office at 614-645-4605 prior to Monday's City Council meeting. We believe these penalties will be another tool for law enforcement to discourage the dangerous behavior that we've seen before there is a loss of life. As you've seen in the video, my goodness, we're lucky we haven't seen worse. Now is the time to bolster our efforts to address this significant community concern. Public safety continues to be City Council's priority, and I look forward to working with our law enforcement partners to attack this issue head on. And before I close out, let me remind everyone that you can get a free gun lock at our fire station. Any fire station in the city, please take advantage of it. Thank you all very, very much. We'll take questions after this press conference is over next door. Thank you all for coming.